answering your tough financial questions for the past 26 years. It's Allworth's Money Matters with co-hosts Scott Hansen and Pat McClain. Would you like an opinion on a financial matter you're dealing with? Whether it's about retirement, investments, taxes, or 401ks, Scott Hansen and Pat McClain would like to help you by answering your call. To join Allworth's Money Matters, call now at 833-99-WORTH. That's 833-99-WORTH.
Welcome to Allworth's Money Matters. Scott Hansen.
Pat McClain.
Glad you are here with us as we talk about financial matters, and we are just a few days away from Christmas. And
yes,
I don't know why that has to do with this program, other than the fact
that it does occur every year, right around this time, Christmas and the program.
Yes, my wife was telling me the history of the date. In the first century, they started celebrating around Christmas time to be near the winter solstice.
The winter solstice for the pagans to. Yeah. Have the pagans accept Christianity better, so they took a lot of the pagan holidays, and that's how they...
Where'd Santa come from? I'm just kidding. Anyway.
I don't actually know where Santa...
It's not a program.
No. And the reason I know that is I've been a practicing Catholic for years and years, and a few years ago, I read this book called Why Do Catholics Do That? It talks about a lot of the traditions in the Catholic Church. Anyway, it's quite interesting. So I understood a lot of the rituals much better after I read the book, Why Do Catholics Do That? Having been raised as a Catholic for 45 years, I thought I should dig into it.
Well, there we go then. So we are celebrating Christmas this time of year to bring Christianity to the pagans.
Okay,
Thank
there
you.
We go.
Anyway, this is a financial show. We talk about financial matters. And if you would like to be a part of the program, our number is 833-99-WORTH. And our numerically, that number is 833-999-6784.
And we're going to take phone calls.
And we will take your calls, yeah.
Financial questions and
the
401ks,
one thing I've
IRAs.
enjoyed the most about this COVID season
okay, what?
is not having to go to any stores to go Christmas shopping. I've gotten pretty good over the years. I've told my wife that I'm happy to shop online.
Yes.
But this year
you didn't even have to. You didn't have to try.
It's not safe. I mean, it's about safety first.
You don't even have to try. This year, I didn't even have to pretend.
No, it was really kind of nice
shopping.
Hey, before we take the calls, there was I read this. I thought it was pretty interesting, and I think it's a good time of the year to bring this up because it has to do with charitable giving and how charitable giving is way up this year. During the first half of 2020, as an example, Charles Schwab saw a 46% increase in dollars granted to through their charities compared to the previous year.
Their donor advised funds.
Through their donor advised fund. Vanguard's charitable fund saw a 51% increase in 2020.
That's significant. Those are deposits into.
Correct. Up 50% from the previous year.
Wow. That's significant.
A lot of the money went to food programs. And I just saw a picture just a few weeks ago about these lines. Food shortage is becoming a major issue. And so looking at Fidelity's charitable, if we look at the money that went to food, this was through May of 2020. So in 2019, there was about just under 10 million went to free food programs. It increased to 75 million.
So when you think about this, there is a large percentage of the population that has been affected because of loss of income, labor, financially. But then there's a large percentage of the population that has more net spendable, disposable income now than they've ever had. I was having this conversation with my brother-in-law last week. I said, look, he's like, what are you talking about? I said,
what are you talking about?
Well, he's like, what are you talking about? I go, you and my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, you haven't been affected by this at all, but your spending has gone down significantly. I said, let me just tell you what you're not spending money on. You're not driving to work. You're not going out to eat. You're not vacationing. You're not traveling.
No clothes.
And he said clothes and even dry cleaning. He said, we don't get our...
My dry cleaning bill last month, I think, was like $18. That's that on the credit card statement. I'm like...
So what it does is allows people that are, they have more net spendable income because their expenses are down to help these charities. And I have a long experience, that's got with the Sacramento Food Bank and Family Services. And
Pat was the chair for years.
Oh, yeah, 10 years. I left the board a couple of years ago, but in April, I went back to the food bank at the very beginning of this, and they were really, really struggling. And I and my wife underwrote a marketing campaign to raise money for the Sacramento Food Bank. And then we went to a marketing firm in Sacramento, Runyon Saltzman, great firm, and asked them if they would put this in place, and they did it all for free, the whole bit, every part of it, designed a marketing campaign because at the beginning of the pandemic, the food banks didn't know how they were going to, there was no money coming in. The need was overwhelming. And as a result of that, we ran this campaign. So I gave the money for all the marketing. It wasn't going to the food bank. It was all directed in public service announcements. Please, please, please help. And because of that, the food bank has weathered this really well. They've been able to serve, and this is just Sacramento, but they've been able to serve everyone that's needed it, which was at the beginning in April. We didn't think that was going to be the case.
It's been... Yeah, it is. There are some really hurting families.
It's awful. It's terrible.
Because the shutdown, as we all know, mostly affects those that, the service jobs that have no choice.
Yeah.
If you're a busboy.
Yep. You're a waiter, you're a dishwasher, you're a line cook, you work, right?
Some of these people have 2 jobs, and now they've got no jobs.
You work in a hotel.
Oh.
Right? Anything having to do with travel.
I've made a personal habit of over-tipping to everybody.
Actually.
Because I still go out to eat when I could, right?
Yes.
Because there's a period of time. And I've stayed at hotels a few times. And
you have?
Yeah.
And you just tip well?
Yeah.
Because you can.
And at your point, I'm not spending...
Actually, my wife and I got in this conversation. We went out to eat, and I left a handsome tip.
Yeah.
You
remember what it's like.
Oh.
You were a waiter in college.
I told if I was in college today as a waiter, I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably end up driving a truck or doing construction or whatever. You do whatever
you're not gonna
you got to do. You're not going to starve. Anyway.
Back to the charitable stuff. So 2/3, here's what's interesting. These donor advised funds, we've talked about it before. Look, there's still time between now and the end of the year. 2/3 of the contributions to Charles Schwab's charitable fund were non-cash assets.
As they should be.
Mostly publicly traded securities and some restricted stock. And all the big donor advised funds work similarly. You can contribute. It's a phenomenal...
You can even contribute land. You could contribute real property.
Oh, yeah. You can contribute just about anything to these things. And you can you put it in the donor advised fund, you have a time to give it away over many years.
You receive the tax deduction today.
It's like a family foundation without all the headache.
They're great. They're great.
Yeah, I've used them for years. Anyway, I saw that story and I thought I'd bring that up briefly. So let's take some calls here. Where'd my little sheet just go to? There it is. We're going to talk with, let's start off here with Eric. Eric, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hi, Scott and Pat. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
My question is regarding when to consider drawing Social Security, to begin drawing. My wife and I have always been under the impression that if we could live comfortably, we should defer taking Social Security until age 70 to take advantage of the delayed retirement credits. But on a recent podcast, I thought I understood you to say that if you could live comfortably without it, you might actually consider taking it sooner because you might be subject to means testing and thus experience a reduction in the benefits. I wondered if you could elaborate a little bit on that concept.
Yeah, so what...
And this is a thesis.
That's right.
But it's based in historical precedent.
So you went through a mathematical equation and determine for yourself that it would make more sense for you to wait, assuming you lived a normal life expectancy, and I'm sure you've thought about that, you would probably have a normal life expectancy. So assuming you live a normal life expectancy, it pays to wait until age 70, right?
Correct.
Assuming you live a normal life expectancy, the cutoff point's 80 some odd years old, and then you'll be in the money because you'll have to defer those years between normal retirement age and age 70. That assumes that the benefits are never going to change for the rest of your life.
That nothing changes.
Tax law doesn't change, and your benefits don't change.
But here's what we know. When I entered this industry 30 years ago, all of Social Security came to every individual that applied tax-free. You get it? You can make $2 million a year. You're not going to pay a dime on Social Security. 26 years ago, they started taxing 50% of incomes at incomes of over $32,000 for a couple, 25 for an individual. By the way, not indexed for inflation.
That's right.
They started taxing 50% of that.
Provisional income, which they've included the Social Security, half of the Social Security.
Yeah, and tax-free municipal bonds. Yeah, so they created this whole new. Up until that point, this provisional income didn't even exist. So they created this provisional income, and they'd add it back to you, and then you'd pay taxes on that. And that went pretty well, and no uproar. And then the next thing they said, well, okay, let's start taxing 85% of provisional incomes at was $44,000 a year for a couple, not indexed for inflation. So what is that? That's means testing. The government gives with one, says, hey, if you're over a certain limit of income, we're going to take some of that benefit back from you in the form of taxation.
That's what they're doing today.
That's what they do today.
So if you were looking at, think about this, if you were going to go buy a security, you're going to give a lump sum of money in exchange for that future payment. And what you're doing now by deferring, you are giving up some money in exchange for a future payment. You would at least do some analysis to say, what is the surety that I'm going to receive those dollars year 1, year 2, year 10, year 20, year 30, right? And of course, the farther you go out, the more it's kind of subject. So who is it that decides how much people should get for Social Security?
Right. And so that's
Congress.
That it's the government body at that point in time.
At that point in time.
But what we do know is that if they all of a sudden said incomes of over $100,000, you're only going to receive X amount of Social Security, and it's, by the way, it's going to drop every year based upon this formula, that the next administration, the next Congress isn't going to come around and probably reverse that to actually give you more benefits. So
we have no idea what's going to happen in the future, but we just look at probabilities.
Right. So what will your income be in retirement without Social Security benefits?
Well, our RMDs would be probably about, let's see. Well, we'll have about $1.2 million in pre-tax income.
Okay. So let me ask
not net worth. How old are you today?
Pre-tax income.
Yeah. How old are you today?
Well, my wife will be 62 next year. I'm 59. So
is she working outside the home?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
So, I mean, you can't really take it until you hit your normal retirement age. But if I were 59 years old and figuring I was going to have $1 million a year of income, I would take it as soon as I could.
As soon as it didn't affect my earned income, right? So when you receive
each your normal retirement age,
or if you quit working earlier, earned income, then I would take it earlier. But if my income was that high, I would take it as fast as I possibly could.
Yes. No, I'm sorry. I might have misspoke. That was not our income. That's just our pre-tax assets.
Okay, that's why I asked. What will your income be in retirement once you quit working?
At full retirement age combined, about 132.
I'd still take it.
At full retirement age?
Yes, I'd take it as soon as I possibly could if I was not working.
Okay.
Let me ask you this. Let's assume that AOC is the Speaker of the House. I'm just throwing it out there. And they're looking at Social Security as a problem. It's 8 years down the road, 10 years. In 10 years,
and Kamala is president.
Look at nothing. The way it's structured now, if Congress doesn't act, there'll be an across-the-board cut in benefits of about 27%, and that means the little widow in a low-income housing whose $621 Social Security check doesn't even pay for her.
She's going to go to $450,
and that's the news story. And who's going to be looking out for Mark for his $120,000? I'm sorry, Eric for his $120,000.
Yeah, everyone's going to be concerned about Eric getting his full Social Security benefit.
That's 10 years.
I could see it in the press.
This isn't 30 years. This is 10 years.
I could see how that's going to play, where there's a bunch of retirees that are making $130,000, $150,000 a year are going to complain that their Social Security benefits are going to be.
That pays for my gas for my motor coach. You take that away, how am I going to be able to take my motor coach cross country?
Yes. Those Airstreams don't run themselves. Right? That's why you take it as early as you can.
Yep, that's our opinion.
Okay, well, I really appreciate it, guys, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Eric. It is bizarre. I mean, that's just what...
I would expect it. Well, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago or last week on our show where this one proposal was out there that it's just a flat number for everyone.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen, but...
It might, because it does effectively the same thing. It lowers the high end and it increases the lower end.
It'd be even it would have to be a much further reduction on the high end, a real reduction on the high end. And there are people that have high... you take someone who deferred to
yeah, you haven't seen them $2,800 a month.
Yeah, right. Maximum benefits. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it might be their only income.
Okay. I doubt. Yes. I'm going to go along with that. I'll go along with that. They made the maximum income. They deferred till 70.
But here's what we do know. Look, but before this COVID issue, before this came to be, it was the Social Security Trust Fund was scheduled to run out either somewhere between the years of 2012, 2020, 2032, and 2034. It's now the estimate's moved up to 2030. 9 years from now.
And it could possibly, the longer this goes on, the greater that number comes down, that it's 2028. Because there's no money going into, and by the way, people will start, if you lose your job at 62.
You'll start taking it.
You'll start taking it. Even though you had every intention of working until 65 or 66, you'll start taking it.
You see that now.
That's what. So it taxes the system. If you've lost your job, you might want a different pot of money, file for disability insurance to see if you're going to get that. That's a different pot of money altogether.
Yeah. Well, who knows? But you could actually see, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a reduction in the next 4 years. Given the amount of deficit spending we've been doing, given this pandemic, trying to come up with some money somewhere, there's already been people in Congress saying someone making over $100,000 a year in retirement doesn't need Social Security.
Chris Christie said it when he ran for office. Chris Christie said it.
Yeah, it's not just the left
back
wing.
In the olden days when he hated Trump.
That's right. Well, he might again.
He could.
All right, let's continue on. Let's talk with Mark in Colorado. Mark, you with Allworth Money Matters.
Hey, Scott and Pat, I really appreciate this show.
Thank you.
Hey, a quick question is, I actually live in Utah, not Colorado. But
sorry.
My wife and I recently moved here to Utah, and we chose to rent as opposed to buy a house because we were unfamiliar with the area.
Makes sense.
My question is, over the years, we've sold 3 homes, and every time we sell a home, we've had a gain, and I put it into a separate account. That account has grown to $340,000 with a basis of $207,000.
Okay.
We're getting ready to buy a house, approximate cost, probably about $500,000. I'm trying to figure out what's the best strategy to pay for this house with that account that I have. Obviously, I could plunk down a lot of that, but I would pay a lot of taxes and stuff like that.
Let me ask you this.
Strategy
is every piece of that portfolio that's in there today, would you buy that same security today?
It's all in the S&P 500, so yes, I would.
Okay.
Got it. And you're 100% certain your full cost basis with reinvested dividends and capital gains is 207 today.
Could be worse.
Correct?
I mean, it could be more gain than that. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. Yeah, Nope, I'm pretty comfortable with those numbers.
Okay, and what's the other assets that you're looking at?
So my wife and I have a Roth IRA. Between the two of us, we have Roth IRAs of $1 million. I have a traditional IRA of $535,000. My wife has a 403B of $70,000. I have a military pension of $55,000 or $55,000 a year, and my wife currently works $45,000 a year.
And how old are you?
I am 54.
Any money in the bank?
Yeah, we have $60,000 in cash. Sorry,
And what did you say the house was going to cost?
$500,000.
But so did you put some money in later? In other words, can you identify some shares and sell your more recent contributions?
I could, yes.
And how much would that be?
Have you looked into that?
I have not, so I don't know those numbers off the top of my head.
That's what I would do.
How much is a house going to cost?
500.
Okay.
500,000.
And do you plan on going back to work? You said you're 50.
54. I'm kind of, I would call semi-retired, so I'm doing a couple side hustles, but nothing, no more grind for me.
Got it. You got the side hustle.
I'm just sitting there thinking, so you're 53, is that what you said?
54.
54. All right.
54.
I'm 54 as well. Right? So I'm trying to think. I'm in your position.
You're going to get a side hustle like Eric? Or Mark? You're going to get a side hustle?
I don't know if I'd use that term because I don't know what you're referring to.
That's what he called it.
I would sell those. I would sell that S&P fund half this year and half the next week, right? And then half in January. Actually, I would do the tax calculation, run the tax calculation beforehand. You're going to be able to get some of this, maybe even at a 15%. It'll all be at 15% plus just the gain portion. I mean, this is why you put money in this account.
That's right.
And then you don't, because having a big mortgage payment, you don't want to have a big mortgage payment every month.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a drag. And then what happens? What happens if when your wife quits working, or if there's a health issue and she can't work anymore,
or you lose your side hustle?
Sure.
Yeah, I agree with Scott.
I'd run the numbers. Seriously, I would run the numbers now, this weekend or Monday, and run the numbers and see what percent of this should you sell this year. What should you sell next year? I would liquidate 100% of it. I'd put all of that pay the tax. It's not going to be that bad. It's just that gain. Fortunately, it's capital gain tax rates, and if you do the calculation, you can spread it over those 2 calendar years, and then having as small as mortgage as possible.
Would you get a 30-year fixed rate?
Yeah, I'd get a 30-year fixed rate.
I'd get a 30-year fixed rate.
Yeah. Maybe if you had a side hustle, you can pay down. But.
Can I give you another thought here? What if I just paid a down payment of $100,000, so 20%, so I'm not paying any PMI, and so I take out a loan of $400,000, and I kind of just use this other account as kind of a sinking fund over the years. It just kind of pays for itself because it's doing a lot better than the current interest rates.
It did. It did a lot better.
Yes.
It's not doing anything. Essentially that is.
You'll earn more long term in the S&P 500, but you're going to have some pretty wild rides along the way. And I'm just thinking about from your own cash flow, what's coming through the house. Is that what you? Yeah,
because then you've got what you're doing is you're talking now actually about leveraging your home. Because essentially what you told us is that you rolled all your gain into this account over time, right?
Right.
And you took that gain and you invested it in the S&P 500, and you were going to use this at some point in time to buy another house, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So it would be the equivalent of you paying cash for a house and then taking a loan out on the home and buying the S&P 500. Would you do that?
No, never. No.
So so your original thesis or your basis for saving the dollars is exactly what I just described. Right. So if you're comfortable taking a loan out on your house, because it's the same thing.
By the way, a capital gain is always better than a capital loss. And I totally understand why you're in this predicament. I mean, I get it, right? No one wants to pay taxes when you don't have to. And you're thinking feels like a voluntary tax. But
Scott, think about this, right? Excuse me. Think about it. How is your Roth IRA allocated? Is it all 100% equities?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
It's all 100% equities in the Roth IRA.
Yes.
And your IRA has 100% equities in it as well?
The traditional or the Roth?
Your traditional.
The traditional is all in bonds.
Okay, so here's what if you want to hold your position. If you want to hold your position in the market, increase the equity exposure inside your IRA and sell the S&P 500 off on your in your brokerage account, and you're going to get to the same place.
The only downside is you got to pay the tax man
That's right.
the toll.
All righty.
I would do it though.
Got it.
I think you'll feel. By the way, the smaller the mortgage you have, I think the more confident you're going to feel during the next major downturn with the stock market. That's coming at some point in time. Maybe who knows when, but at some point in time it'll be there. The smaller the mortgage you have, the more confident you're going to feel, and the better, I believe, the better you'll do by weathering that storm. So anyway, glad you called, Mark, and certainly wish you and your family well. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will continue on with some more calls. You're listening to Allworth's Money Matter.
Can't get enough of Allworth's Money Matters? Visit allworthfinancial.com/radio to listen to the Money Matters podcast.
Welcome back to Allworth's Money Matters. Scott Hansen here.
Pat McLean. Thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah, glad you're listening right around Christmas time.
Yes,
and all that.
and we hope it is good for you and your family.
Yes, it's another strange season because who visits, who doesn't visit. We're going to stay away from all that.
Yeah, we were going to have Santa come over, but not a chance now.
Well, you can't put out the cookies and milk.
That's right. That is right. That is right. Anyway, hey, on to a little bit more serious things. The number of people that are actually going into retirement earlier than they had expected because of the COVID and the coronavirus is astounding, putting more pressure on, as we talked about at the beginning of the show, Social Security.
But there was, this was a report from the Schwartz Center for Economic Policy Analysis, whoever they are. 2.9 million workers ages 55 to 70 have left the labor force since March.
That is between the ages of 55 and 70, right?
They say with the same pace over the next 3 months, they're expecting another 1.1 million workers in that age group to leave the workforce. That would be over 4 million people leaving the workforce between age 55 and 70. Look, it's fine if you've got the financial resources to fully retire.
And you were planning on it, if it was part of the process. But if you move those years up 3, 4, 5 years prior to when you were, it will make for a significant change in lifestyle. That's why when we talk about savings for retirement, we talk about being prepared, not necessarily that you want to retire, it's that you should be able to retire, right? Because what we do know is historically approximately 48% of people enter retirement before they expected to.
That's right. Roughly 1 in 2 of you will retire before you'd planned.
And part of it is the economy, work, changes in job status, education of you education, disabilities or sickness for you or a loved one.
And so if you find yourself forced into early retirement, we'd strongly suggest you go talk with a qualified advisor who specializes in retirement, who can help you navigate through some of these things. Because there's going to be some decisions that are irrevocable.
Yes.
How you choose a pension, maybe there's a lump sum, just a handful of irrevocable decisions. And it's also, what can you actually afford to take out? How are you going to, is retirement realistic?
How it should be invested. By the way, if they mention an indexed annuity.
That's not a quality.
That is not a.
You want a fiduciary advisor who's a fee-based advisor.
That is going to charge you a fee for a financial plan and for managing your money.
Yeah. All right, let's take some. That's depressing.
It is a little depressing.
Yeah. And I know people. We've got clients. Same thing.
Oh, happens.
Yeah,
absolutely happens.
So let's take some calls here. Let's start with Suzette. Suzette, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hi, how are you today?
Hi, Suzette.
What can we do for you?
I have a very quick question. I have a very quick question for you. I think probably first I should tell you a little bit about our situation and then ask my question.
Please.
It's actually a two-parter, and then, I'll just be quiet and let you take it from there. My husband and I both have pretty significant 401ks. We have enough income. We don't need those funds to live off of right now. He's 69. I'm 63. Our home is paid off. We have no debts. But I'm concerned about a change in a recent law regarding inherited 401ks and the rules around required withdrawals from those inherited accounts.
You mean you can't stretch them out any longer and it has to be distributed within 10 years?
Yes. And can you just tell me a little bit more about that and what we can do now to try and minimize taxes to our heirs down the road?
Yeah, I mean, it used to be that you can stretch these out over. How many children do you have?
Just one.
Okay, so it used to be that someone would inherit a retirement account, and that child could stretch out the distributions based upon their life expectancy. So if they're 40 years old, they might have a 40-year life expectancy. So the first year they'd have to take out 1/40th of the account, the next year 1/39th of the account, and they can essentially just have the account to spread out over the remaining life. The change that occurred is going forward when people inherit retirement accounts like this, non-spouses, the account must be distributed within 10 years. Now, they don't have to take out necessarily 1/10 each year, but the account must be distributed within a 10-year period of time.
Okay.
So if you died, let's say, with $1 million in a retirement account, and your child inherited, they'd have to take out essentially $100,000 a year. That's going to then get added onto their other income.
So did you say you are retired today?
She didn't state. Okay. And your income is coming from where? Pension?
My husband has a pension and Social Security. I have Social Security, and because we're debt-free, that covers our bills.
Okay. And so how much is your approximate income, including the Social Security and your husband's pension, on an annual basis?
About just under $8,000 a month.
Okay, so one of the ways that you can do this is look to see if a Roth conversion makes sense for you between now and the age of 72 on your account.
Are you taking money from those accounts now?
No.
Yeah. There might be room for a little bit, maybe $20,000 a year or something.
Something.
But it's something that would help you because you could be in a low tax bracket. You're in a 12% federal tax bracket, and then it bumps up to 22%. So between now and the time you hit the Roth conversion could have the required minimum distribution age.
Yeah.
Gives you an opportunity.
You've got a couple years to play with there between now and age. And what's the approximate 401k balances?
Each of us are, mine's over $1 million and his is slightly under.
Okay, so $2 million total.
Right.
So, yeah, you could play with that. And then once he starts his required minimum distributions, any money that goes to charity should come directly out of his IRA.
What state does your child live in?
We're all in California.
And is everyone staying in California long term?
That remains to be seen, but for now, yes.
All right. I mean, because that makes a difference because the California tax rates are high and some states are zero. So
you wouldn't do the Roth if you were planning on moving out of state. So there's really not a lot you can do other than the Roth conversions, and you should sit down with your advisor or tax accountant between now and the end of the year in order to determine what that amount should be.
Yeah, you probably
won't be a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It won't be a lot, but it'll be something. And then do it for next year, and then age 72. Required minimum distributions, any money that goes to charity comes right out of his 401k IRA.
Okay, so there's no limit on what we can convert to a Roth. It's just a matter of how much pain can we take from a tax standpoint.
That's exactly right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. And you might decide to go up. What you want to do is do a pro forma of what the required minimum distribution looks like out of his IRA at age 72.
Right.
And let's just assume a 5% growth in the account. And then what's the required minimum distribution? And then decide where that puts you in your marginal tax rate. And as long as you're taking money out and converting it to the Roth IRA at the same or a lower tax rate, you actually do as much as you possibly can.
Okay.
And a good advisor should be able to walk you through that.
Yeah, we kind of figured we'd leave his alone and convert mine because I've got the longer time until requirement.
Yeah, because he's going to have to start taking his, and she won't. So, and hers is slightly larger. It's 6-1, half a dozen the other.
Yeah, I don't know if it matters. Okay. I'm trying to think of the logic behind whether I would care one way or the other.
And one thing to consider is rather than having each other listed as primary beneficiaries, having a child listed as your child listed as a primary beneficiary
on one of them, or as a portion of,
or set up a separate trust for.
The danger there is
there's some dangers, but
there's some danger there. There's some danger there because you're pushing it out of the estate.
I mean, in other words, if your husband passed away and that his IRA or his 401k went to your child.
And it depends on your child's income.
Mm-hmm.
So does your child have substantial income now?
No, she's doing a postdoc, but hopefully.
Okay.
Hopefully she will.
Okay, so if she's doing a postdoc, and let's assume that it's a marketable skill, not some sort of Sanskrit or whatever like that.
Don't go there, okay?
I think you need to move to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, you don't have to pay federal income taxes, and I believe that IRA withdrawals are tax-free in Puerto Rico.
So unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do.
Besides going to Puerto Rico.
Yeah, and I don't know, Scott, if I would actually change the beneficiary. It depends on what the child.
Throw it out there.
No, we're circling them. We're just circling the idea.
You're thinking about the right things.
Yeah, but let's just start with the easy stuff now. Which is the Roth
or maybe
conversions.
just take some out and go spend some.
Yeah, why don't you do that? No,
take
truly.
One heck of a long trip.
Yeah, why don't you?
Or no, in all seriousness, look, your daughter is getting her doctorate, right? So she's probably going to be in pretty good financial shape. Pat did bring up any money that you required minimum distributions that go directly to a charity are not taxable. They're not considered they won't go in your taxable income. So that is something to be considered as well. As time goes on, it's like, all right, how much are we going to leave to our daughter? We're going to leave. You're going to leave it all behind somewhere, right? So, does our daughter going to need it all, and particularly the retirement account's going to get taxed so heavily? Do we want to give some portion of that to a charity? We want to have even part of our contingent beneficiary, part of that to a charity? Do we want to start giving a portion to charity as we go through life? So
those are all things to
consider.
All right. Well, appreciate the call, Suzette.
Yeah. But unfortunately,
it's
a good problem to have, but it's a problem. It is a problem that you need to address.
I appreciate your advice. I take it to heart.
All right, thank you, Suzette. Glad you do. That makes me feel good about showing up and doing the show all the time. Let's head to South Carolina and talk with Mark. Mark, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Gentlemen, how we doing? I appreciate you taking my call. Big fan of you guys. Listen to you every week.
Oh, good. Thank you.
I kind of need it's more of an opinion than a question. So I'm looking at buying a second rental property. I just bought my first one last year. Kind of under your advisement, I called into the show and you guys kind of walked me through it. So I moved forward with the one last year and it worked out great. Got a great renter in there. It's going really well. So I'm looking to buy another one. My fear is liquidating a big chunk of my emergency fund to do this. So I want to know should I keep my emergency fund sitting in cash? Should I invest this in a rental property?
So remember, right? Remember, it's an asset that you're buying that's producing an income. So
there's a renter in there.
Yeah, and the decision you made last year may have been the right one to purchase that particular property
at that time.
It may not make sense. So before we talk about the funding of the particular rental property, tell us about what the economics of this particular rental will look like.
So let me tell you, I'm already under contract. So I went under contract on it yesterday. It's a $100,000 condo. Mortgage all in will be about $900. I can potentially get about $1,300 a month in rent.
So how much are you putting down, and how big is the mortgage?
15%. So I'll carry about an $86,000 mortgage. You put 15% down. Out of pocket with closing costs can be right around $20,000. I have about $30,000 in cash.
How much money do you make?
About $130 a year.
And how old are you?
46. Divorced, 2 kids.
And lines. How much equity do you have in either your primary residence or your rental property?
So my primary residence, it's worth about $400. I owe $287. The rental property is worth $120. I owe $95 on.
And what's the interest rate on the primary?
3.75.
And is it a 15 or 30-year fixed?
30-year fixed.
Is this condo in this rental property in the same area as your other rental property?
Yes, it is. Right, probably 10 miles away.
So this is what I think I would do. You owe $287.
How much do you have in your 401k?
I got about $460 in my 401k. Oh. I have $25 in an IRA. I have $21 in a brokerage account.
Okay. And you said you owe $287 on this property.
Is this a particular good deal on this?
I think it is, yes. And based off the area and the demographics and school district, and it's the cheapest and the most affordable place in that area.
And the gross rent on this is how much per month?
I should get about $1,300.
So it's probably going to be pretty close to break even.
No, because your mortgage is
$900.
low.
He said $900 all in, yeah. But then deferred maintenance.
How old's the condo?
It's 1980, so 30 years old.
And so the $900 includes your condo dues, right?
That's everything. Taxes.
They keep the
so
roof up.
$400. So it's $4,800 a year. The delta difference between the two. So
what you need to worry. Here's the things you need to worry about. One, the rent being vacant for a few months.
Correct. 2,
a bad renter in there that thrashes the place.
Correct.
And just normal.
That and third, if we have another major downturn, but he's pretty. So you said you owe $287 on your primary. You've done a nice job saving in your 401k.
How much is your primary residence worth?
About $400.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about the
and I think
cash.
I would think less of emergency reserve. I would look at, so now you're going to own 2 rentals. One is some emergency reserve for your own personal family. Something happens, you can't work for a few months or whatever. But reserve for these investments such that times when...
Yeah, $10,000 or $15,000 sitting aside so that if it stays empty for a period of time, or if you need to do a major remodel or roof repair or anything like that.
And I have that, but that's also my emergency fund for my family.
Yeah, so we're just...
Job. But other thing is that I have... So my backup plan is I have $20,000 sitting in mutual funds, brokerage accounts.
That's exactly it.
Non-retirement that I could access if I need it.
That's it. That's why we're saying go for it. And you may have a loan provision on your 401k that you hope not to use, but that you could use if you needed to.
Yeah.
And by the way, we discourage loans on 401ks, but based upon your age and what a good saver you are, it wouldn't.
And is this a 30-year loan or a 15-year loan?
It'll be a 30. Yeah, it'll be a 30.
So I was originally thinking that maybe he should refinance out of his primary residence into this, but there's not enough room in there to do that. Yeah. And the rate's pretty good.
Yeah, I thought about that too.
Yeah, but you could split the difference if you could lower the rate on your primary residence by
because
0.5%. Then take as much cash out of that as you possibly can, and then get a small loan on the condo.
Yeah.
Yeah, the difference there, he may never get his primary residence paid off if that's the.
So,
and the challenge, the thing is now are you taking a standard deduction or are you itemizing still?
Itemizing.
Oh, you are? Okay.
So anyway, I wouldn't worry about you're going to save back up the liquid cash and your emergency reserve in a relatively short period of time, and you have a brokerage account, and there's a good chance that you have a loan provision on your 401k.
There might be some advisors out there. Dave Ramsey is quite well known. I have respect for what he does, and he helps a lot of people. It's very, he calls it baby steps, right? So it's very basic financial planning, but if you follow his advice, you are not going to get hurt, right? Which is about getting out of debt, paying off your house. You will not get hurt. It's not clearly not the only way to build financial independence. So I look at you, Mark, you're 46, you're divorced, which is always a disaster financially. Somehow you're still doing okay, right? So you've got equity in your home. You've got roughly $500,000 saved towards your retirement. It's pretty dang good at 46.
Yep.
Rental
property.
You've got a good career, which is your best investment.
Stable income.
So I personally have no problem with you. And I think you do this by 20 years from now, this condo will presumably continue to increase in value. The loan balance is going to get smaller. The rents are going to increase.
You'll turn it into a stream of income.
It'll be a nice income
when you retire.
Part of my retirement portfolio for my kids.
Yep.
I had another quick question, and this might be a dumb one, but what is the repercussions for over contributing to your 401k?
You got to pull it back out, or there's a 50% penalty.
Yeah, but normally
does that include employer contributions?
Well, employer contributions, so you can, the maximum contributions are $50,000. Employee contributions are limited to $18,000 or something like that for 2000
and driven by age. And every plan is a little bit different because they have what's called discrimination testing on plans. So we could tell you what the numbers are, and your plan might be completely different based upon discrimination testing.
But should I do anything about? I over contributed in 19 by like $2,000. Should I worry about it?
Last year you did?
Yeah.
Did the plan notify you?
No.
How do you know you over contributed then?
Because I was looking at my statements and going into December, and I was going to get a big bonus check in December, so I cut my contribution rate down, and I ended up still going over.
And did it go in? Did it go in on an after-tax basis?
Yeah. After tax? No, we're in pre-tax.
Yeah. So you can only it was 19,000 for 2019, 19,005. The dollars need to come out. I'm surprised they haven't.
Normally the plan would normally.
I think they have to.
Fidelity. So it's through Fidelity.
Okay. Well, I'm just
normally. So call the plan administrator and ask them.
You got to get it out.
Yeah. Ask the plan administrator to kick it back.
Even that little bit of money, it'll be taxed at 50%.
Well,
I think they're going to catch it.
Yeah, but you don't have to do it, and you could roll the dice.
Yeah, because it's going to be on your W-2.
So I can just pull that money out. Then.
Yes. Yes. Correct. If you've overfunded the plan, normally it's the other way around, where the plan contacts you and says, "Here's a check."
No, never had that. So.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into it.
All right. Yeah, you do need to look into it. You can't. That's one of those things. They'll eventually catch it. What you don't want to do is have this go on and then pay penalties for
years
as time goes on. Yeah. And frankly, whether they're going to catch it or not, that's $2,000 mistake. That's material, and I'm always kind of. The last thing I want is to worry about the IRS coming back after me for anything. So when you find out you made a mistake somewhere,
you fix it.
Fix it. I mean, just life's going to go better.
Yeah, fix it.
I mean, we've seen people.
Oh. Seen fight.
I could tell you stories.
10, 15 years.
Oh, my. Yeah.
See him fight with the IRS.
Oh, gosh. And next, we're talking with Lucy. Lucy, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hi.
Hi, Lucy.
Afternoon. Hi.
How can we help you?
So I had a question regarding my daughter. She's 23 years old, and she has some money that she wants to put aside, invest, and make some earnings on it. And I didn't know if maybe a CD would be appropriate, and if so, what type of CD?
Where did she get the money?
She through her earnings, her employment.
And does she work full time?
Yes.
And does the company have a 401k or a 403b available to her?
No, she's actually going to be. Well, I don't know if they offer it now. The job that she's at doesn't offer it now, but the job she's getting, we're not sure.
And how much money she saved?
Probably about $12,000.
Wow, good for her. And what does she want these dollars to do for? What would she like to see these dollars do for her?
Well, right now they're in a savings account, and of course she's not earning anything on it, not very much on it.
What's her point? What does she want these dollars to provide for her? Does she want this? Does she never want to see it until she's old and in her retirement? Does she want these dollars to help her with buy a house one day?
No, so she's going to be applying for medical school in about a year or so, maybe a year and a half.
All right. Keep them
so
in the bank.
She's going to need access to it. Yeah.
I would go to if this were my daughter, I would say you're going to want to keep it safe and in the bank because you're going to be spending these dollars in the next year. Interest rates are just low right now. That's just reality, unfortunately. But if you go to bankrate.com, it'll list the highest yielding bank accounts out there, and I would find the highest yielding bank account, online bank account. It's not going to be much. It's probably less than 1%. If it's 1%, more than 1%, it's not going to be for a long period of time. It's just going to be low rate, but you're going to want to make sure that it's there. The worst thing that she could do is put this somewhere with trying to earn a higher return, and then a year from now when she needs it, instead of it being worth $12,000, it's only worth $11,000 or $9,000. And so, that's the reality. If you're going to move, anytime you move out of the bank, there's going to be some additional risk. And the amount additional you'll get paid on a CD versus a savings account is negligible. I'd stick with the savings account. So appreciate the call. Lucy, it sounds pretty awesome. Your daughter's going to, your 23-year-old daughter's got 12 grand saved up and then she's going to go to medical school. So
yeah. And some people say we should worry about the next generation. I don't think so.
There's a lot of really strong ones. Well, we are up against the clock here. Wanted to let you all know we at Allworth and spent several months building out what we call our personalized retirement learning platform. And it's not just a series of guides or videos or whatnot. It leads you down a path that's to your specific situation.
It's interactive.
Yes, interactive.
It will ask you questions. You will answer it.
Provide answers based upon that. And some of our most popular learning tracks focus on building a retirement income plan as well as a Social Security claiming strategy. So if you haven't looked at that in a while, at our website, allworthfinancial.com, I believe it's on our homepage. So you can go, it's right there on our homepage, and our personalized retirement learning platform. Check it out. Anyway, we are out of time, unfortunately. It's been fun being with you. We hope everyone has a fantastic Christmas and holiday season, and we will see you next week. This has been Allworth's Money Matters.
This program has been brought to you by Allworth Financial, a registered investment advisory firm. Any ideas presented during this program are not intended to provide specific financial advice. You should consult your own financial advisor, tax consultant, or estate planning attorney to conduct your own due diligence.